Before we begin, let's just take a tiny joy moment together. Wherever you are right now, driving, walking, sitting with a cup of tea or coffee, maybe folding laundry, I invite you to pause just for a breath. Inhale slowly, exhale gently. Now notice one small thing around you that feels good. Maybe it's the warmth of the room, the way your shoulders drop just a little, the sound of your own breathing, a message you received today, a memory that makes you smile. It doesn't have to be big, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just something simple, something kind. Just let yourself hold that for a moment because joy doesn't always arrive in fireworks. Sometimes it shows up in a whisper, and today we're choosing to listen. Kim, can you share with us maybe your tiny joy moment?
Sure. So when you speak to the warmth of the room, the other day we had no heat on this middle floor of our house, and it
Yeah,
was freezing cold. So now that I have warmth in the room, it is exactly that.
that is a perfect thing to bring joy. My joy moment came right before we jumped on to do this. My daughter, who's in college, just called me just to shoot the breeze, like just to tell me some random things that were happening. And it just feels good to have those moments of connection. Nothing big, just a regular conversation with a kid who's away from me. So that was my
Love
joy
that.
moment right before we started. Welcome to Held with Joy, where we honor the small moments that help carry us through the big ones. I'm your host, Kelly Holder, and I am very glad that you're here. Today, I'm honored to be joined by someone who is helping to bring compassion, courage, and voice back into healthcare. Today, we welcome Kim Downey. She is the founder of Stand Up for Doctors, is a physical therapist, a three-time cancer survivor, a fierce advocate for physician well-being, as an ambassador for the Dr. Lorna Breen Heroes Foundation, Clinical Burnout Foundation, and community ambassador for Medicine Forward. She brings deep insight into both the clinical and human sides of medicine. She amplifies the voices of doctors and patients addressing challenges like burnout, moral injury, and loss of autonomy. Kim's mission is to foster connection and advocacy for healthier doctors and a stronger healthcare system. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Kelly. I'm honored to have the opportunity.
Yay, I'm so glad you're here. All right, we're just going to jump in. On your website, there's a description of how you started Stand Up for Doctors. And in there, you say that you started with a fire in your heart. Can you take us back to that moment? What did you see or experience that made you say, this has to change?
Well, what we can say in one sentence is sometimes beautiful things rise from the ashes of the saddest of things. So, after 2 years of constant medical issues, and I'm a pediatric physical therapist by training, I thought I'd finally be moving forward. And I showed up for what I thought would finally be a routine imaging visit. And my radiologist wasn't there. And when I asked where he was, they said he died a month ago. And I couldn't even believe it. I actually said, with a panic in my voice, "Are you joking?" And they said no. And I asked what happened, and they said they didn't know. And in that moment in my heart, I just knew he had died by suicide. And I came to find out that was the case. And I just felt a calling to support doctors. I don't know how else to describe it than that.
Wow. And since you've done that, since that moment, you've had lots of moments with lots of doctors. Can you tell us just a little bit about what's happened as you started doing this work?
Sure. So I ended up with a physician coach, Dr. Michael Hirsch, and he helped me process and accept a lot of things. And he connected me on LinkedIn. It'll be 3 years ago this spring. I wanted to find ways to help my own doctors. Now that I have 8 doctors, and I would do anything for them because now I have an endocrinologist, a nephrologist, a few oncologists, primary care doctor, gynecologist, and I wanted to help them. And they're actually in a few different systems. And but I didn't know what to do, so I thought if I talked to other doctors on LinkedIn, they could help me find ways to help my own doctors. But through conversations with them, it's a gift from God or the universe that I seem to know who a doctor will want to talk to. So it's like when I talk to them, I would be like, "Oh, you should talk to so and so, or you should talk to so and so." So then they would connect with each other, kind of the way
Wow.
I connected you with Dr. Sarah Hollander, right? And then you
Right.
really hit
Yeah.
it off. And then not only were you on my podcast, but then we went on to collaborate on a Kevin MD article
Yeah.
and a podcast, and we keep going, and that keeps happening. And whether it's with two doctors, two non-physicians, a physician and a non-physician. So I'm still trying to find ways to help my own doctors, but at least they know that they have a patient who's working really hard out there for them because I have, my monthly Substack newsletter where I share my advocacy efforts and I send it to them every month. And I've given them a copy of the first book, and now they'll be getting a copy of the second book for Doctor's Day. So,
Oh, wow. So we're going to talk about your new book in just a minute. I just want to pause to highlight how important what you're doing is. Um, you know, doctors, physicians have really tough jobs. They see tough things every day, and most people don't think about the toll that it takes to
mhm.
carry that amount of suffering on a regular basis. And so what you've done is be able to say, hey, we can take care of those who take care of us, right? We can show them support, and help them ask for help, because sometimes when you're the person taking care of people, it can be really hard to ask for help yourself.
Yes. Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
So tell us just a small smidgen about your upcoming book.
Well, it's now not upcoming. It's actually live on Amazon,
Oh,
paperback and Kindle. White Coats, Human Hearts, True Stories of Healing, Belonging, and the Courage to Stay Human in Medicine. And this book features the stories of 11 physicians, two physician spouses, two patients, and me. I always forget that part, but I have the first chapter.
that's so beautiful. All right. So this book, it comes out of all these conversations and lived experiences that physicians have had and the conversations you've had. What story or truth felt so important that it had to be written down and shared with the world?
Well, one that strikes all of them, it's like asking you to pick a favorite child, right? So I love all of the stories,
Yeah.
but one that struck me when I interviewed them because they're all based on the my podcast
Okay.
episode. So I invited the doctor. So our first book was White Coats, Courageous Hearts, and that was 15 physician authors, and those were the first 15 doctors who were guests on my YouTube channel. And then I remember when Dr. Mark McLaughlin, he's a neurosurgeon in New Jersey, and when we recorded our episode, he shared a story about a patient of his, Anthony, who didn't have the best outcome. He thought it was a good outcome, and then things didn't go so well, and how he beat himself up internally for so long. Like he, started drinking scotch at night, or he would walk around, and other people thought he was okay, but he was just really suffering deeply. He
Yeah.
actually moved to another state. He stopped operating on children. And this impacted him for I think, like 15 years. And then he was writing his own book called Cognitive Dominance. And he thought to reach out to this family, Anthony's family. And they still had this pizza place in Massachusetts. So he drove from New Jersey to Massachusetts. Oh, because he found out that Anthony was still alive, and he didn't know that he was. And then when he had an emotional reunion with them, he apologized because he says, "I'm sorry I didn't bring your boy back," because he had been, running around, this healthy little kid, and now he's in a wheelchair. But they were like, "Oh my God." They were like, "Thank you so much. Like, you saved his life. He's here with us. We still
Wow.
have our boy." And of course, he tells it better than I do. But when he shared that during our episode, I had tears in my eyes, that changed his perspective, and that patient Anthony taught him so much, and he could have saved himself 15 years of suffering because how he
Yeah.
looked at it, that it was his biggest failure, but in the family's eyes, it was a wonderful success because he saved his life and he's still alive.
Yeah, that perspective, how, that shift, how it makes such a big difference. And this is why we need to have more conversations, and not get in our own silos, patients with physicians, physicians with their patients, just people coming together to talk about our experience and what it means to be human and what's going on. It's a powerful
Yes.
story. All right, so you spend a lot of time listening to these kinds of stories about burnout, moral injury, and loss. Where do you personally find joy and renewal in this work? And how do you protect it?
Well, I have to say that it fills my heart every day. And when I first started, and I've learned so much from doctors, so it's like doctors helping me help doctors. So a lot of the doctors I speak with are coaches and become, like coaches to
Mm-hmm.
physicians. So they directly or indirectly end up coaching me. And of course, I had my own, physician coach and I learned so much from them. So I think when I started this work, I hadn't really ever thought about that term like imposter syndrome. But at first, I think I had some of that related to this work because I was like, when at first, like when doctors would like find me on LinkedIn and they'd be like, "Hey, could we have a conversation?" And I was like, well, "You want to talk to me or it's just me?" Like I used to tell Michael that sometimes. I'm like, "It's just me," but that I'm a safe person to tell a story to, right? And in some ways,
Yeah.
maybe because I'm not a doctor or a
Mm-hmm.
therapist, a physical therapist, but it's like I'm not taking notes, I'm not reporting to anybody. I'm just listening. Like they know that I've been through a lot and have chose to stand up for doctors. And they know, the things that I've been through and seen. And so when they feel comfortable sharing their stories with me, whether it's privately or on the YouTube channel or in the book. That just fills my heart every single day. And the gratitude from doctors to know that there's somebody out there who sees them and understands and deeply cares and is trying to make a difference.
Yeah, and it makes a difference. It makes a difference. So, seeing and experience what you've experienced, both as a patient and as a advocate, right? And listening to all these stories and physicians wanting to tell you these stories, how has that shaped the way you now advocate for both doctors and patients?
So I have to say, for the first 50 plus years of my life, I never really felt like a patient. And even once when I
Mm,
had an emergency appendectomy, I was like, okay, this thing happened to me, somebody fixed it, and I went back to my regular life.
okay.
So really just went for an annual visit or every so often if I had a sinus infection. And I have to say, like, I had two doctors over 20 years each, and then they retired right before and during the pandemic. And I would have said, like, they were lovely women, and each year I'd just say, "Hi, how are you?" And it's like, they'd tell me I was fine, and then I'd just go back to my business. So even though I would have told anybody, "Oh, yeah, they're great," I wouldn't say that I deeply appreciated them or thought about them. And you used to say,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, I have to go to the doctor." Like, "Oh, this is kind of an
Mm-hmm.
inconvenience, so I have to go to the doctor." But now that I need doctors, like literally to keep me alive, to order the medications, and I'm at a high risk of new cancers because of a genetic mutation, is now I'm so grateful, right? Because they've, saved my life and they're keeping me alive. And there's no end to the depth of my gratitude. So now when I go, like just yesterday, I saw my medical oncologist and I was looking forward to seeing him. I was so excited to see him. Like we had a great conversation and then he gave me a big hug when I left. So it's tremendously deepened my relationship with my own physicians.
Okay.
And then also from the patient perspective that I'm sharing with other people and now raising awareness. And sometimes like they send thank you notes to doctors when they wouldn't have otherwise. Because many patients say, I had no idea. They didn't know, that at least 400 doctors a year dying by suicide. They didn't know doctors were struggling.
Yeah. 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 I can see how. the story you just told just now shows how even within yourself you had that shift of going from going to see my doctor is just something I do to I'm going to the doctor who is an actual person. And
Yeah.
just because they are a physician, they're at risk for certain things. And I want to be aware of that and consider them as I go to my appointments, which is a major shift. It's a major
Mm-hmm.
shift.
Mm-hmm.
If someone is listening today is feeling discouraged, whether they're a physician, a caregiver, or a patient, what would you most want them to know about their voice and their power to create change?
Well, I would first say if you're struggling, that you're never alone.
Mm,
There's people out there that want to help, and I met you at a Dr. Lorna Breen Heroes Foundation
yeah,
event. So thank goodness for that. And, I'm an ambassador. So that's the important thing to know is that if you're struggling, that there's people out there that want to help. And you're a wonderful person to share resources, for that. And for people that aren't struggling right now or have moved forward from struggling, we can use your voice in any capacity. So if you're a patient, you can reach out to me or even you, and we can connect
yeah,
you with like Dr. Lorna Breen Heroes Foundation. And there's a lot of people who are trying to make a difference to make things better. And if you're a doctor, there's a lot of doctors out there now who are trying to support and help their colleagues or are moving forward with like innovation and solutions and action. And I'm speaking with a lot of them, and we're trying to find
yeah.
ways forward with that. So there's a place for anyone.
Yes, there is. And with this podcast in the comment section or the box below, we're going to make sure that we have resources for physicians, for patients and caregivers so that you know some of the resources that are available, as well as all the information so that you can find Kim Downey and the Stand Up for Doctors and these two wonderful books that she's put together. Do you have any final words before we sum up for today?
Well, I guess I would just say that, my mission is, to build connection and create advocacy for healthy doctors. So I continue to find ways to do that. And if anyone wants to reach out, I'm always happy to have a conversation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you're good for a good conversation. You're a great supporter and advocate, which is one of the things I really love about interacting with you.
Thank you, Kelly, and I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. All right, so as we close today, I want to take a moment to reflect on what we've just shared. We've been reminded of the power of honest stories, of courage, of compassion, and what happens when people choose to speak up, connect, and care deeply for one another. We've heard how purpose can grow even out of hard places, how advocacy, listening, and community can bring healing in ways we don't always expect. And through it all, we're reminded that joy is always available in every season and every experience. It doesn't always come easily, and it doesn't always look the way we expect. Sometimes joy is quiet, sometimes it's strength, sometimes it's rest, and sometimes it's simply making it through the day. But it's there. And today, if you're listening and you're having trouble reaching it, if it feels far away or buried underneath everything you carry, please remember this: you are seen, you are valued, you matter, and you are held with joy. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Until next time, take gentle care of yourself. All right? Bye, everyone.